And we are now live. Welcome to the Hangout on Air. We're about to get started recording for our podcast deep dive, episode 30.5. So with no further ado, as you guys can always see, you see us kind of doing our thing there. And we kind of do our behind the scene thing before we go on to the actual recording of the Play Away podcast. So Ruben, you good over there?
I'm good, man. I'm Gucci, man.
Good. You're recording. All right. So Let me go ahead and make sure all of the stuff is muted on my end. We are muted. All right. Coming to you in 3. Hold on, let me make sure, double check one more time. Okay, we're good. Test. Hey. Good. Okay. Coming to you in 3, 2. You heard what the man said. It's time for the deep dive. I am your resident DJ, BK, of the podcast called The Player Way. And we're back. This is week 3. Shouts out to my co-captains Derek and Nate, who are usually a part of our main podcast. But as you have heard the past few weeks, we've gotten started with a secondary product, all a part of the same Player Way podcast family, called Deep Dive The Player Way. And it gives us an opportunity to take subjects that are in the media and things that we talk about on the Play Away podcast, but then bring them down to our size with some subject matter experts in the field. And the subject matter expert we have on this episode of the Deep Dive, I'm really honored to have him. I've been working with this guy for quite some time. A little bit about him. He's based out of the film Mecca, Atlanta, Georgia, taking it straight out of comedyhype.com that did an article on him. Recently, he's been dropping an entertainment comedy on his Rube Ziggy YouTube channel. He's an actor, he's a writer, he's a film producer. He's known for feature appearances, major motion pictures such as Dirty Grandpa, as well as Barbershop 3. And he recently had a 32-minute experimental short film called Got Him that is kind of his opportunity to kind of branch out and play around with the idea of taking popular independent hip hop artists and some of their music videos, but then putting it with some sketch comedy as well. He's reached out to me and he wants us to do some director of photography. So ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, with all due respect, show your love for Mr. Ruben Shaw.
Word, man. Thanks for having me, man. I'm glad to be on the show. It's about time we did this.
Yeah, man. You actually were supposedly the first guest, but it took a minute. Ruben stays mad busy all the time. When he's not working in front of the camera, he's working hard at work behind the scenes. This is a man who legitimately has figured out a way to not have a job anymore and do nothing but work in the field. So he's producing shows. He's working behind the scenes and helping other directors and producers produce their content and their live events. And that's actually how I got to meet him. So really glad to have you now in a more creative, collaborative project. And basically the whole subject matter of this particular show, the topic, if you will, is going to be about the changing landscape of entertainment. And this is definitely a week to talk about change. Okay. Yep. This week, there is definitely updates about the Disney Fox buyout. Ruben, have you been keeping up with that?
Man, I've been hearing about it. I love Disney. This is mega. This is major.
It absolutely is major. If you've been listening to the Play Away podcast, we've been keeping you up to date on what's been going on. I have an update from you. A writer and reporter named Armin S. of the popular Comic Book Cast YouTube channel. He gave some updates actually yesterday and today. So here's some bullet points to let you know where we're at. This episode is going to come out Thursday. So it is very possible that this buyout may be settled, but here's what you need to know just in case they're keeping you at bay. Earlier this week, around Tuesday, Comcast announced that they could not come to an agreement with Fox. If you remember, Nate was the one who alluded to the fact that Comcast might be the one that swoop in. And as a result, this only leaves Sony and Disney in the last of the negotiations. Now, it is very possible that Disney may not be able to come to an agreement with them and that Sony ends up getting the property. We definitely don't want that, because Sony is the one that has been handling all of the Deadpool stuff, and they've been handling the Spider-Man stuff. Now, while they do have a great, healthy relationship with Marvel, obviously the best thing for everyone, in our opinion, in terms of intellectual property, and keep that in mind, we're going to talk about intellectual property a little bit later, is we want Disney to have everything. We want Disney to have the vault and be able to say, as Nate says, here's all of our shit. So, December 14th, according to CNBC, Armin S. continued on. CNBC reported that on Tuesday, that Thursday, December 14th, should be the official date that we find out. So again, this episode comes out on December 14th. So hopefully we have some good news. It is evident that it's probably going to take close to 2 years or so to get everything ironed out. So I don't expect anything in terms of cameos in the more upcoming films. And the other thing to keep in mind too, and Armin S talked about this on Comic Book Cast, Final Fantasy 4, not Final Fantasy 4. Why did I say FF4? Fantastic Four. There you go. Fantastic Four is not a part of the deal. Constantine Films, Nate also alluded to this on the previous podcast, that they actually own the film rights to Fantastic Four. But up until now, Disney has not been able to communicate directly with Constantine Films because of the intermediary of Fox. They had the contract. So if they buy the contract from Fox, then they can now negotiate with Constantine Films. And we know that Constantine Films has a collaborative spirit. They mainly hold the rights to those characters just so they can make money off of them. They don't really want to make the films themselves. They want somebody else to pay them to do it for them. So how do we bring this all down to our size? Well, Rube Ziggy, as he goes by on YouTube, Ruben Shaw, the actor, the producer, the writer, this guy has gotten some really awesome views on his YouTube videos. One of your YouTube videos I saw was in the 50,000s. Congratulations on that, man.
Yeah, man, that's a old little docu short that we did. Super producer Needles, he produced Bruno Mars' "Just the Way You Are." He had a little invite. I was invited to his studio, to his house, where they were doing this big ASCAP song with a lot of great artists and talented writers, and I got to shoot. Lo and behold, I put it up. It blew up. You know what I mean? It did what it did. And, you know, that's when I realized the power of YouTube. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And the power of YouTube and other online applications like it have really brought Hollywood to its knees. There was a time where certain levels of rating, and I think I talked about this online, but if I hadn't, I talked about it with someone offline. Andy Richter over there at Conan, the Conan O'Brien show on TBS, he was talking about how ratings nowadays are crazy, because back in the day, in order to make the kind of money you needed to make in Hollywood and have the kind of notoriety and stay on television and to not have a show that had gotten canceled within the first season, you had to have millions and millions of viewership. But now with YouTube, with Hulu, with Netflix, Hollywood has realized that maybe we don't have to get that much of a captive audience. We just have to get a much smaller, more concentrated audience that we can guarantee that our product will be used and we can grow our brand with. And so that all starts from the chocolate rains, the he needs some milk, the memes, the online auto-tune the news, all of those catchy things that we see online, those potent potables that people really gravitate toward. And that's what's really driving content and the conversation about net neutrality. So my question with you, Ruben, is what are you looking for as a producer, a content producer? What do you look out for? What are the things online that capture your attention?
Well, I mean, as a creator, every single thing that I see, and as an educated man, you know, everything I see captures my attention, especially when it comes to social media. When I first started doing this stuff, I got into the game doing social media marketing. So I love the internet. I'm obsessed with the internet. I'm always on it. But the thing is, like, when I'm producing content, I like seeing where it's going. It's just all over the place now.
It really is all over the place.
So that's why for somebody who's doing, you know, sketch art or things like that, it's kind of a good thing because you could just pull from anything and anywhere. And if you have, the thing about it is, like, you know, it's all over the place.
Right.
Which means that doesn't mean it's good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's right. It's not, so a lot of stuff is not good. What's great about social media being a part of the content creation conversation is that a lot of the content creation that never makes it to the cutting room, well, that ends up on the cutting room floor, never makes it out to people. But because of social media, you hear about movies that are in development hell, that you hear about ideas, and what you got is you get, you know, social networks like Funny or Die. Used to be a social network just for posting comedic videos, and now it's become a place where you can kind of test out content before you invest in it. In fact, Will Ferrell, one of the minds behind that, one of the investors behind that, a lot of stuff like Drunk History, a lot of Bat Fight, a lot of Dirty Sanchez type stuff that you hear about, because he does a lot. He has like this, like, is this like something Sanchez Films or something like that? He tests a lot of stuff out on that social network, and so
those are great.
Yeah, they are. They're amazing.
Those websites, those are like our new television networks.
It really
you know
is.
What I mean? Those, I remember I was speaking with one of my NFL buddies, Devontae, out of the Falcons. He said all they watch is shows on the internet, the YouTubes, the Vimeos. That's all they watch. They don't even watch television like that. So when you have the Funny or Dies and the Comedy Hypes and the different sites like that that have a platform for the artists to, you know, test out content or whatnot, that's a good thing. You know what I mean?
That's the great thing. That's a great thing for people like us, because intellectual property, again, that's going to be a constant buzzword you're going to hear in this episode, because intellectual property is the name of the game. Intellectual property, if you are a lay person and you don't know what that means, intellectual property is literally the invention of content out of nowhere. And it's the ability to take that content, get a copyright on it, and make it your own, so that you can sell it, repackage it, and get it out there to the public at large. And so what's important to know about that is why are we talking about this content creation and this grassroots intellectual property in a bigger conversation with Marvel? Well, here's why it's relevant. Back in the day, which was a Tuesday, of course, it would have been impossible for a company like Fox to even sit down and have a conversation with Marvel. If you go back to the history of how all of this came to be, Marvel Comics was at a time where it was dying as a company, and to save itself, it had to sell off film rights to the characters, because they really didn't have a vision in creating motion pictures. That was something that they couldn't even fathom at one time or another. So now that we're in a place where these things can happen, and it kind of kicked off with Sony making the original Spider-Man film that made it really big at the turn of the century, Marvel decided to get serious about making this intellectual property into actual films. The problem is when they got started in creating these actual these live action films, the only stuff they had to work with were the Avengers. And at that time, no one cared about the Avengers. Iron Man was not a comic that people cared about. You cared about the Wolverines, you cared about the X-Men, you cared about Professor X, you cared about, you know, Spider-Man and Venom. No one cared about the Avengers. And so somehow Disney, when it was Marvel Studios first before Disney was even involved, they had to get very smart about taking chicken shit and making it into chicken salad. And that's what content creators are always doing online anyway. So when you get desperate, that's when you start figuring out ways to collaborate. When you realize, hey, that other guy over there has the camera I want, but his content is not popping. But my content is popping, but I need his abilities. Let me collaborate with this guy and say, hey, I'll give you something to film if you film me. and let's work together and make this happen. And that's what's happening now, because Marvel is kicking the butts of everyone else that is out here making these comic book films. And now these studios have this expensive intellectual property, and they can't make it stick. They can't make it into the sauce that they need to get people to come back for more. So what's going on is, go ahead.
That's because, first off, Marvel got all the money. So when they got all the money, you monopolize the game.
Yeah.
And the problem is you love to eat. People love to eat. They'll never like the major motion pictures, the major motion companies. It's all meant for themselves. It's a cutthroat industry.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
What it will ultimately, the thing is, the reason that they're not able to get people to stick is because of the intense boom of content that's just online. I can go watch a movie that nobody's talking about on Facebook that somebody just made in Buckhead that's gonna grasp my attention, and I didn't pay nothing for it. I can go tell people about it. Now I feel like I'm really a part of the thing. Like, I'm not just a fan. I'm somebody who knows about a movie that nobody knows about, and I'm putting people on. Now that's the new generation.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, that's the key. Is the person that you shit on today and you think ain't worth nothing can be the next Bobby Shmurda. I mean, Bobby Shmurda didn't even start off as somebody that people really was listening to his music. They were making fun of the way he danced.
Right.
And then when the way he danced started to catch on, people were like, yo, this is how we do it out here. This is how we do it in these streets. It started to catch on. Next thing you know, if dude didn't mess up his career with all of the bullshit that he was doing, he would still be out here making music and popping. So
don't get it twisted. Let me tell you something about Bobby Shmurda. When he comes out, he's going to be the next Gucci man.
Yeah, man.
Mark my words. Mark my words. Because he built something within that community. He built a whole sound, a whole style, a whole swagger that
out of nothing.
That you could honestly say Bobby Shmurda started all this mumble rap and all this corny stuff going on, because you didn't really, you was feeling the song, but it was a corny video. It was so basic, and he blew up off that. All of a sudden, everybody, that was a viral video, bro.
Yeah,
that was a viral video.
And that's why Hollywood is paying attention to the Ruben Shaws of the world, and the Derek Lewises of the world, and the Nate Petersons of the world, and dare I say, the BK Jacksons of the world, and even the Jay Styles, who may be on next week's episode. Shout out to him, of the world, because you never know when that content is going to go from zero to being the next story meteoric hero. So, This episode is to be an inspiration to people who listen to the podcast and they hear us talking about all kinds of different content that's out here. Remember that all of these comic book films started off as Stan Lee and Avi Arad and Frank Miller, all of their ideas, just intangible ideas.
That's exactly what I wanted to say. Like, Disney, what's going on with Disney and Marvel? It all started off with like one individual who had an idea. And I guarantee you, like, think about it, man. Somebody come up to you, be like, yo, I got this mouse that talks, man. I'm telling you, it's going to be a hit. Kids are going to love it. Like, back in 1940, people looking at you crazy.
Yeah.
You coming up to somebody like, yo, I got this idea about this spider that saves the world, saves people, has a girlfriend, but he doesn't get. Come on, man. People looking at you crazy. 50 years later, 60 years later, these are 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 billion dollar corporations. Started off with the people who created them ain't even alive.
Exactly. The people who, you're 100% right about that.
So
speaking of which, into transition, have you heard about this documentary called Batman and Bill?
No, I haven't heard about that.
A while back, it's actually earlier this year, a documentary came out called Batman and Bill. It was about a man named Bill Finger, who actually is supposedly the man who created the Batman. And basically the man who is credited with the Batman in the golden age of comics, Bob Kane was originally, if you look at the original Michael Keaton Batman,
Yeah.
and you say inspired by the comic book The Batman by Bob Kane. And so that's who people originally thought created Batman, but really he was this guy who was into creating comic books and stuff, and he had this artist friend who was a writer named Bill Finger. And one night Bob Kane had this idea about this superhero, but it was like really raw and it didn't look good. And Bill Finger was like, no, this is what you should do. And he like drew up the original Batman, and he actually created Batman. Well, Bill Finger wasn't this like genius like Steve Jobs. He was this guy who just did the hard work. And and basically more like Steve Wozniak, who really is the guy behind the original Mac. But the guy that we always talk about is I just said his name.
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, yeah, Steve Jobs. So Bob Kane was like the Steve Jobs of the Dark Knight's past, whereas Bill Finger was like the Steve Wozniak, the guy who really engineered it. And Bill Finger died in squalor and just died a broke, poor dude. And he's the dude who created Batman. Meanwhile, the dude who created, who figured out a way to take that intellectual property, put a copyright on it, that's the guy who ended up making tons of money off of it. And it's only more recently that Bill Finger actually finally got his upcomings, but he been dead decades. Wow. It's like his family that's finally getting in the newest Batman versus Superman. You can now see Bill Finger listed along with Bob Kane. Wow. You know, so that's what that goes exactly what you're saying is this guy who created this idea, and they dead and gone. So it's incredibly important as a content creator. In fact, you tell them what should you do as a content creator to protect your intellectual property.
Well, first off, you got to know business. I mean, everybody gets lost in this. I want to be. What do you want to be? You want to be Denzel, or do you want to be Disney, the corporation? I mean, you have to start understanding.
I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna let you finish, but I'm gonna steal that. Say that one more time. Do you want to be who?
Do you want to be Denzel, or do you want to be Disney, the corporation? So
ladies and gentlemen,
that's where in this saturated market right now, that's where I feel like I'm just a little bit different, because you know everybody want to compare you to somebody. I mean, especially when you're doing a good job. They want to say, yo, man, you Chappelle, man, you're Denzel. No, that's not my goal. I'm creating content. I'm an artist first. Okay, now as an artist, if you're a real artist, that means you've been creating content for years. I'm 30 years old. I've been writing since I was 7. You understand? From music to stories to whatever. In school, I took it serious. I don't know why. I was always a character. And once I became an adult and had responsibilities, you said it earlier, desperation calls for desperate measures. So you're like, yo, I'm going to just do what the hell I got to do. Something happens. You're an artist, but then you're like, yo, I have to feed my son. I have a bill. I have this. Yo, business. Well, first order of business, if you created it, man, you better go copyright that, man. Because if you told somebody, it's nothing for somebody else to go take that idea, copyright it, and then take it and get it in the hands of people who can produce it too.
Yeah, so back in the day, back in the day, to make a copyright used to be a lot more difficult. My grandmother, who has written like all kinds of songs and stuff, back when I was in college and I was making beats and stuff, she used to always say, baby, now you got to do a poor man's copyright. You got to put it in a self-addressed stamped envelope and mail it to yourself and don't never open it so you can prove that you created it. But nowadays you got digital timestamps and metadata. All you got to do is write that thing down, whatever that thing is, put it into a file that you can save onto your computer so there's a timestamp of the day and time you created it. Be meticulous about keeping your records and everything else that you need, because you never know if you are one of those people who create content, and you're one of those people who, like you said, you're an artist and you've been every day of your life creating something. You may be the type of person that says, man, I don't really need to do this, and that, and you you could be like Dr. Dre and throw away all your ideas in the trash can, and you'll never realize that the idea that you may need may be 15 ideas behind. It doesn't matter. Save those ideas, save those episodes, save those beats,
I'm
save that content.
I'm telling y'all right now, the idea of Got 'em, that was an idea that has been brewing in my head for probably 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, do a thing where you're integrating the rappers and do acting. But you know, I'm sitting here living life thinking, yo, that's corny. Nah, maybe it's not gonna work. Not really believing in myself until I did it. So when I did it, bro, it was like a wake-up call. Like, oh my God, the world needed this.
Yeah.
And it was right here the whole time.
In between two ears. Yeah.
What happened was like it was the response that almost forced me to say, yo, I gotta do it again. Yeah. It changed my whole mind frame to saying, okay, forget. Okay, you're a good actor, man. You're real good. You can continue to go to Broadway and you can go here. But wait, you want some money, B?
Yeah.
I mean, make 2, 3 of them, and then boom, that's Disney trying to buy you out.
What I love about Got 'em, let's talk about Got 'em for a second. I love that you didn't wait until the idea was completely into fruition. Like there's a raw aspect to that, but you can see what it is. It's almost like you're sharing. It's kind of like our live stream that we do right on the day that we broadcast. So the podcast, if you listen to the podcast, you're one of those people that listen to the podcast every week, you have a more edited, complete version of it after I've had a chance to go through it. I don't really cut anything out. It's pretty much raw, but I do optimize it for the listening experience so that it's enjoyable, so that you don't feel like it's this cacophony that you have to turn off. However, we do a live stream every single time that we post on the YouTube, post on the Facebook, so people can see what we're doing. So when we start, we're just talking and we're not quite recording yet. We're not quite in it. And so we're not afraid to allow people to see what we're doing raw. Got 'em is like that as well. There's a raw aspect to it. The pacing is not where I know you want it to be ultimately, but you put those sketches out there, you put these ideas out there so you can say, I made this first. So if you have somebody come along, for example, not Sarah Silverman, but what's the other chick? The blonde chick who was she was
you talking about Palin?
No, not Palin. Female comedian.
Thick chick.
Yeah, kind of. She was in this female comedian, and she is known for stealing jokes. Stealing jokes. Amy Schumer.
Yeah.
Okay, so Amy
chick,
Schumer, for example. Yeah, thick chick. Look at you, the thick chick, right? Yeah, hey. Amy Schumer is known for. If you saw her show on Comedy Central, there's these side-by-side comparisons of other sketch comedy shows that shows that even if she didn't steal it, somebody who's writing on a show is stealing from that content. And so what's great is you got this amazing sketch called Bitch Slap. Yeah. I love it. It's very Chappelle Show-esque, but it's nothing. I have not seen it anywhere else before. You even got your own jingle to it, and you have it all on there. And so what I love about it is you can always come back to that content and make it more polished and then take down the older versions. But at least you have your content up there. And so if you inspire somebody, that's a hustle. Let's say they steal it from you. Hey, you're going to get paid.
I mean, it's purposely, Got 'em was purposely done that way.
Yeah.
Even in my treatment, it's written. In my treatment, raw.
Yeah.
I want it to be raw because it was for the culture.
Yeah.
It's more or less, I'm 30 years old. I'm trying to inspire cats. Hey, you got this. You could do it like this. You don't need all this. Stop wasting your time. What do you think you're doing? You're wasting your time. It's cinematic. Yeah, and it was just me and my boy.
And what I love about it, and what I love is it's like
bigger.
But what I love about it is it's like its own storyboard. So when you go to film it again, you can be like, okay, these are the exact same sketches we want to do. The script is already right here. Just watch this, learn your part, and we can redo it bigger and better with a bigger budget.
I didn't even do the sketches I wanted to do because I was testing to see how people are gonna react to me coming out cussing the herbs, and I'm on YouTube.
Oh, I love that you did this other sketch too.
You know,
but it's more like a music video, but it's a sketch too, where you pulling out, a couple little bubs right there, rolling up your little slim blunt.
Yeah. That's my what I call that
I love
sketch. Man, the Lonely Stoner.
Yeah, man, that's
what
funny
it's called.
Too.
That's called a Lonely
It's like
Stoner.
a silent film, but like updated.
That's exactly what I wanted to do. I told my boy in our pre-production, yo, this is Charlie Chaplin. Okay, I'm going Black Charlie Chaplin, 2017. This is where it is. Hey, I'm an artist. Okay, so personally, I don't care about as long as it's better than those corny virals and it's cinematic because I'm an actor. I don't care about it looking like it's 50,000, 3,000. My talent alone is going to speak for itself, which is going to give me that big check one day, whenever that day comes. But as long as my ish look this good, yo, when I bring in, hopefully I could bring in the BK, you feel me? And then once I bring in the team, and now I got 4 or 5 shooters, and I have my actors and actresses. I had to do all that to get people on board. People don't want to believe in you until you do something, son.
That is crazy. I was talking with Derek about that.
So once I did got him, and then everybody, it took 3-4 days. It took 2 weeks, and then people went back, watched it again because they told their friends and seen that it had like 5,000 views. Now all of a sudden it's, yo, what you doing? Yo, let's do some sketches. Yo, you doing another one? Get me in your next joint. Hey, bro. Hey, all of a sudden I'm the man.
Dude, that's like Scotty. That's like Scotty. Shout out to Royal Scotty Pimp, who came out with his first EP. It's on Spotify and everything. Fishing for Facts. But yeah, he had a similar situation where people were sleeping on him. And when he got his team together, started getting his headshots together, got his first EP out, people started taking him seriously. It's the same thing with our podcast. It wasn't until more recently when we got to being in that top 10 on iTunes under film and television podcasts, people are like, oh, I see why he wants to kind of do his own thing for a little bit and take the podcast thing a little bit more seriously.
It shook the whole community because let me tell you, when you make a little breakthrough, when you make a little ripple, what happens is, I seen Boosie say it the other day, and it's true. I had a placement back in 2010 on Single Ladies or whatever, 2 music placements that was popping. Everybody loved it. Oh, you saw it, like people was on you. Like then know, a couple years go by, you don't do nothing. Then Dirty Grandpa popped. Now I was telling people for months, yo, I did Dirty Grandpa. I worked with Robert De Niro. People just laughing at that. Yo, you a lying ass Negro. That blah. Then they seen the movie. Oh snap!
Yo,
that's really
right there.
That's really your boy. He wasn't lying. Then all of a sudden, like people started not calling me because they thought I was in a whole nother stratosphere.
Exactly.
So it's almost like I had to do God on to show him, yo, I'm still here.
Yeah, still grinding. What was it like to do Barbershop 3?
Dope. I mean, think about it. Ice Cube, Nicki Minaj, Cedric the Entertainer, Common, Eve, Regina Hall, JB Smooth, 21 Days. And I'm in the shop every day. Like I tell people all the time, you might see me, you might only see my face in that set, but I'm actually in every single scene. They just kept moving me around. And then I said, amazing. And then I always tell people, I don't care about the acting. I'm in the business of film and entertainment. So being on set every single day is all I needed.
It's a lesson. It's an opportunity to grow and learn.
And learn.
Exactly. That's awesome, man.
Come on,
That's
man.
awesome.
Nicki Minaj, man. You look at that Nicki Minaj every single day, like she come on, son. Like, come on, bro. Like, you don't even know what to do.
Especially, dude.
Yo, like you see people on TV, they look one way. I look one way coming through the screen right now. You see me in real life, I'm fine as hell, ladies. It's just like you see Eve. You see Eve in real life, you're like, damn, like, yo, I knew you was fine, but damn, like it's just great because you also get to see talent in the flesh.
Yeah.
The people that you're sitting there at home saying, I want to be like that person. I want to, They just like you and me. They just grinding.
Right.
They don't even know when the next check coming. Most likely, they struggling more than you because they bills are harder than yours. So they working 10 times harder on that set. And when you get to see that, and there's humility there, you understand, I'm in the right game. You know what I mean? I get it. I'm cool.
Absolutely. And that's the thing about the technology is allowing films to be made in different ways. As cities grow, you know, Atlanta right now is a mecca for film right now. And there will be a time to where Atlanta will be the place of the past. As we know, all meccas come and go. Once everybody realizes every film has been made and they Swiss cheese the hell out of the economy here, it gets tired, that's going to be an opportunity lost. So while you can get it, while you're out here in Atlanta, that's the reason why when we do the Play Away podcast, I was specific about finding a guy who lived out in Los Angeles, a guy who lives in Dallas, Texas, and a guy that lives out here in Atlanta. When we come together, we have three different perspectives. All three are places, you know, Texas being a sports capital for sports radio and all of the major deals happening, you know, whether you believe it or not, Dallas Cowboys is America's team. So a lot of quiet is kept about what happens in Dallas, Texas, and the oil money that fuels it. But there's a lot of understanding about the economy of the entertainment business and the sports business. Atlanta, we're a mecca for film, and Los Angeles is Los Angeles. It speaks for itself. So definitely that's part of the passion of us curating media the player way on this episode, on the show with every single episode, and bringing guys like yourselves on to talk about these perspectives that seem some way out of reach, and they are our entertainment. But there's always an opportunity to flip that, similar to Dame Dash. Dame Dash talks about being a boss versus being a worker. You know, that's something I'm going through right now where, you know, there's a security in having a job and going to work, but then there's also an imprisoning factor to it as well. And the idea of being your own boss and never having a job again. You know, we live in a society where as long as net neutrality becomes a fight that we are winning, we got a place to it's the, you know, intellectual property is the new crack. Just get you some baking soda, whip it up, and get in the kitchen. Don't be lazy.
Come on, man. That's as simple as that, man. Like everybody has it's 2018.
Yeah, man.
It's a digital world, universe, so to say. When they talk about the grid, the matrix, man, if there was ever a time that it was that, it's now.
Absolutely.
So you got a choice. You got the blue pill and you got the red pill, man.
Oh, preach.
You understand what I'm saying? It's simple.
Yeah, man.
And a lot of things are built off of conceptual fears. You know what I'm saying? We fear concepts.
Yeah.
We believe that if it's not a 9 to 5, I can't survive.
Yes.
But what you realize is if you actually cut that 9 to 5 off, that thing that you're working for a boss or whatever. I learned that there was 21 days in 7 days.
Wow. You saying something right now.
Okay. So
Gems.
I'm gonna say that one more time.
Say it, bro.
I learned that there was 21 days in 7 days when I cut off the going to work 9 to 5 every single day, because now I had to get up and make my own money. I had to make my own paper. There was no more such thing as 24 hours. It was just, every day.
Yeah.
I get a call from you. All right, I'm dead. Oh, shoot, they call me on quiet. I'm dead. Okay, I got to do my own little deal on the side. I got to Uber. I got to do that. But then I was having more free time, yet getting paid more money.
Yeah.
And then I'm still creating, and I ain't selling myself. I ain't feeling like I'm screwing nobody out there like I was when I was working at AT&T. I've been doing this for 7 years now.
And what's crazy about all of it is you can still do that and still participate and support artistic endeavors. You can still go to the movies. You can still log on to YouTube and Facebook, and because Facebook has even got content now.
In a day where you could buy Fire Sticks. And you can go on Facebook and type in whatever you want to see. I've tried it. It's gonna come up, homie.
Yeah, it is.
It's
Absolutely.
gonna come up.
Yeah. And so you got an opportunity to, as long you can support entertainment, you can support the types of tribes. You can be a tribe unto yourself about the type of communications you enjoy, the type of news you want to watch, the type of sports you want to pay into, the types of views you want to pay for, the types of movies you want to go see. You can support all of these things, because if you support those things, then you support a side hustle for yourself that can become a main hustle one day. So definitely, hopefully this episode has inspired you to not just look at the headlines and say, man, if Disney can get out here and make a way out of no way, if they can do what Vince McMahon did. People used to say that you would never see WCW, ECW, and WWF all on the same screen. And I learned that the impossible was possible the day I saw Shane McMahon walk on the Monday Night Nitro when they was down there in Florida. And I said, oh no, they just bought WCW and then they bought ECW and made it all one brand.
Let me say that goes back to this thing that I said. Shane McMahon a wrestler, man. Yeah. Shane McMahon be jumping off of 30-foot cages.
Yeah.
But he's a businessman when that TV go off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and let me tell you something about business.
All right, I see what you're going. I see what you're doing. Let's cook it up.
All right, let me tell you something about business, dude. When you got a brand, I'm gonna show you something. Yeah, you're watching got him, but behind the scenes, Ruben Shaw's cutthroat. I'm a businessman. I ain't playing. Yo, you look how many times we've talked about, yo, when we gonna do that meeting? I keep telling you, yo, when I do a meeting, dog, you're gonna be like, yo, he wasn't playing. Like, because behind the scenes as a businessman, you gotta make certain moves. You gotta learn how to get them views. You gotta learn how to get them followers. How do I get these subscribers? How do I get this guy's followers?
Wow.
How do I get that girl's followers? How do I get that girl? How do I get that girl to come work in my project?
Wow.
Why is she working with him? I gotta get in that DM. You gotta get, it's a cutthroat game. And then all of a sudden, guess what? All of a sudden, that's the Macho Man Randy Savage girl on his arm. Where she come from? That's Queen Elizabeth. All of a sudden, that's 5 more years of your show.
Man. You're giving people $1 million worth of gems. You're giving people $1 million worth of gems for free 99 right now, man.
Hey, you better take it for free 99, man, before I become like Tony Robbins and start doing like seriously, man. Like it's the way that you view it. Your perspective and your perception is everything. That's the difference between the Shane and the other Shane. You feel me? Some people think about business and the others is thinking about fame. Are you want to be Aubrey Graham? Or do you want to be Drake?
Absolutely. I see what you mean. I know exactly what you're saying. A lot of people that flew over their heads. And the answer to that is you want to be Aubrey Graham. That's who you want to be. That's the man on the contract.
Come on, man.
Exactly. Because Jake, you can always make another Drake.
Come on, man.
But Aubrey Graham will always be a master of his own destiny.
Come on, man.
And we're hearing right now Ruben Shaw, the man known as Rube Ziggy on YouTube, is a master of his domain. So, brother, thank you for coming on the deep dive and helping us do it the player way. Your reward for coming on here, plug you right now. It's your opportunity. It's your opportunity to advertise yourself. Go ahead, give it to us.
So you already know, man. My name is Ruben Shaw. Actually, my name is Robert Ruben Shaw, and I'm an actor. I'm a writer, producer, and you could just go just tune into my content, man. You can Google Broke Boys. It's a series. You can find that on YouTube, Channel 40, and then you can check my stuff out on Rubes Iggy, REUBZIGGY on YouTube. We got the Got 'em. We got the new Got 'em. Writing the sketches. I already got like 10 sketches. We're going to be working. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be better. It's going to be sexier. It's going to be raw. It's going to affect you a little more harder than the last one. That's coming. And just follow me. Instagram, One Rubes. I got so many social platforms. I got to remember all the names. Facebook, Ruben Shaw. Twitter, Rube Shaw. Just follow me, man. And follow you the Play Away, man. Play Away podcast, BK, everybody doing their thing. Independent artists, holla at me, man. Get at me. I'm looking for independent artists, real independent artists. You know what I'm saying?
People who really about that grind before the shine, about that grind and not the fame. That's exactly right.
Sure,
well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between. Shout out to my co-captains, Derek and Nate, even though they're not there on the podcast right now, they were always here in spirit. And if you enjoyed this content, there's always more on the Play Your Way Network at playlifeyourway.com, or you can go to playyourwaynetwork.com, or you can go to playyourwaypodcast.com. Any of those domains will take you to the same online lifestyle magazine where you as a man or woman who works 50 to 70 hours a week, you need help curating your media the Player Way. We will help you do that in the best way possible. Shouts out again to Rube Ziggy, Ruben Shaw, Robert Ruben Shaw. Thank you. Salute, my brother. And we will be getting up on the next season of God, and we will be doing some director of photography stuff. We might even have to fly Derek out so he can help corrupt the system as well.
Come through.
Absolutely. All right, man. And remember, no matter what paths you take or streets you follow, just make sure you're doing that shit the Player Way. We'll holler at you next week. There we go. We'll end that just like that. You can go ahead and stop recording on your recording program. Go ahead and export that out as a WAV file to me, brother. Man, I appreciate the opportunity. You dropped so many gems. This was an amazing episode, man.
Hey, man, I love doing interviews, man. It was. I don't even know what I talked about. I can't wait to see it, dog. I can't wait to watch it. It's gonna be good.
Well, definitely, we're gonna get up. We're gonna do some collaboration. I appreciate you.
Man. I'm gonna have that meeting with you, man. Yeah. Definitely, and my crew. I already told them everything, man. I just got to sign off on this crib on Friday, and then once I settle in a couple of weeks, you already know.
Yeah. What we'll do is we'll get together and we'll what I want to do is shoot some basic sketches, maybe even like a basic EPK with you, just so you can see kind of what I'm able to do and able to make that that HD video extra crispy. And then get you on the edit, and then you can kind of see what we're working with, and then we can start planning from there on doing a little bit more, man. But again, thank you for coming on the Playway Podcast. It was an honor to have you on, and we'll talk to you soon, bro.
For sure, man. Thanks for having me. I'm about to send you that.
All right, bro.
All right, yo. Peace. Yeah.